श्री स्वामीनारायण भगवान नी जय, अक्षर पुरुषोत्तम महाराज नी जय, प्रमुख स्वामी महाराज नी जय, महंत स्वामी महाराज नी जय, प्रमुख स्वामी महाराज शताब्दी महोत्सव नी जय. We're currently studying Pramukh Swami Maharaj's Jivan Charitra Part 1. This session will be focusing on assessment K, and we're going to start off with K33. This session will cover a lot about Pramukh Swami Maharaj's trip to Africa. The notes have been given in English and can be downloaded from the myBAPS app. The notes have also been sectioned such that you can also listen to them in Gujarati if needed. Let's move on to K33. So the title of this chapter is Dvotya Datanane, or Datanatya Dvone, which literally means, or which literally translates to morning in one place and nightfall in another. And it actually reflects or explains how extensive and tiring Pramukh Swami Maharaj's Vicharan was. It also shows us how hard Swamiji used to push himself in running the sanstha just to fulfill the wish and the agna of his Guru Shastriji Maharaj. So, on the 26th of January 1970, Swamiji visited Anand and Vidyanagar. And from here then Swamiji began his Vicharan. Now the purpose of this Vicharan was to raise donations for Tuerni Dal. So he first raised a call for donations at Anand Mandir that very same night. And then the next day, in the morning, he visited Anand's local market yard, Bajar se Tyan Gaya. And then in the evening, he collected donations of Tuerni Dal from the shops that were located in the Bajar and the old road locality, which is near Anand's railway station. So this was on the 26th and the 27th. Then on the 28th of January, Swamiji then visited shops in the Lotia Bhagor. And then he went to the Karamsad road area and raised donations for dal from the shopkeepers over there. Swamiji covered the entire town of Anand, north, south, east and west in merely 2 days. It's a huge feat. But Swami again was tirelessly doing his Vicharan this way. Now, in addition to the Padhramanis and the constant begging for donations, Swamiji also had to deliver discourses and do katha in the satsang sabhas. Now, these sabhas took place in the mornings and the evenings, so we can see what kind of a hectic Vicharan Swami had while he was in Anand. After a long day packed with Padhramanis, Swamiji then came to the agricultural college in Anand, where a satsang sabha was organized from about 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And then after the evening sabha in Anand, Swamiji then travelled to Bamangam, and Swami got there around 9 p.m. So many Hari Bhaktas were waiting in Bamangam just to welcome Pramukh Swami Maharaj. They had a little small oil lamps and torches in their hands. And a traditional welcome procession was given to him in a tractor, which was then followed by a satsang sabha, which then ended at around 11 p.m. So we can see an entire day and how hectic Swamiji's travels were. Now, throughout the next day, while Swami was in Bamangam, Swamiji then carried on doing Padhramanis. And Mahant Sai Maharaj is often talked about doing Padhramanis in Bamangam. Again, very, very hectic travels at that time. Now, in Bamangam, Swamiji eventually got to Sadhuram Bhai's house that evening in the village of Kosindra. So now Swami traveled all the way to Kosindra. And then on the 30th of January, Swamiji then performed the groundbreaking ceremony for the Mandir in Kosindra. Swamiji appealed to everyone to give ample seva in order to complete the Mandir construction work at the earliest. We can see that again Swami also had a very motivating and inspiring technique and way in which he would appeal to everybody just to make sure that even the Mandirs was supported accordingly. Swamiji then continued from there to go to Joshikuwa, and then finally Swami got to Atladra at 9 p.m. Swami was soon going to travel abroad with Yogiji Maharaj, and so whichever centers he visited, he made sure to provide clear and direct instructions for proper administration of the rest of the mandirs. Now let's move on to K34. Now this section talks about a dream that Yogiji Maharaj had once narrated. Yogi Bapa was in Mumbai and Pramukh Swami Maharaj was still in Atladra. Yogiji Maharaj often shared his dreams like this, as we discussed in a previous session as well. And in this dream, Yogi Bapa said, સ્વપ્નું આવ્યું, હું ભંડારમાં હતો. પછી બાલમુકુંદ સ્વામી ને પ્રમુખ સ્વામીએ બાલમુકુંદ સ્વામીને પ્રમુખ સ્વામીએ બોલાવા મોકલ્યા. પ્રમુખ સ્વામી શીરો હલાવતા હતા. મેં બાલમુકુંદ સ્વામીને કહ્યું કે પ્રમુખ સ્વામીને શીરો શું કામ હલાવવા દો છો? પછી આગળ ગયો તો હજારો બ્રાહ્મણો રસોઈ કરતા હતા. એવા દર્શન થયા. So he's just narrating that he had a dream. I was in the kitchen. Pramukh Swami Maharaj then sent Balmukund Swami to call me. Pramukh Swami Maharaj was preparing shiro. So I spoke to Balmukund Swami saying, why did you let Pramukh Swami Maharaj stir the shiro? And when I went further, thousands of Brahmins were preparing the meals. Adarsh Jivan Swami makes a very nice note in the Jivan Charitra that despite being physically distant from Pramukh Swami Maharaj, Yogiji Maharaj was always occupied. Pramukh Swami Maharaj occupied a very special place in Yogi Bapa's heart and his mind. So a very nice manan that even though Pramukh Swami Maharaj was far away, Yogi Bapa would often be also thinking about Pramukh Swami Maharaj. Let's move on to K35. Now, so on the morning of 2nd of February 1970, Pramukh Swami Maharaj was scheduled to arrive in Mumbai. Yogiji Maharaj had instructed the senior devotees and the youths, just to go, and a few sadhus as well. And Swami said to them, "Ke kale Pramukh Swami ave che. Tame sama leva jajo. Danvat karjo." Now that's exactly what everyone did. It's interesting to see what Yogi Bapa said. He told them, "Ke tame Pramukh Swami ne danvat karjo." And then when Swami Shri arrived, everyone extended a very warm welcome to him and then accompanied him to the Mandir from the railway station. Later on, Yogiji Maharaj then asked the yuaks, "Pramukh Swami ne snan karavyu? Did you bathe Pramukh Swami Maharaj?" Now it was very habitual, how it was customary how some of the yuaks would regularly go in the morning when Yogi Bapa was taking a bath, and they would also help him and help him take a shower, take a bath as well. So Yogi Bapa then asked, "Ke Pramukh Swami ne snan karavyu?" And so the yuak said, "Na Bapa, we haven't." Yogi Bapa goes, "To pachi jao, go." તો જાઓ, જેમ અમને સ્નાન કરાવો છો તેવી રીતે પ્રમુખ સ્વામીને સ્નાન કરાવો. Just as you bathe me, go and bathe Pramukh Swami Maharaj in the same way. Now, as it was an agna from Yogi Bapa, naturally all the yuaks went to Swami Shri and then tried to bathe Swami Shri. Pramukh Swami Maharaj was a little surprised because this was all new to him, and so he told them, "કે અહીં શું છે? યોગીજી મહારાજની સેવા કરવાની હોય. અહીં કાંઈ નથી. જઈને બાપા પાસે બેસો." Yogi Bapa, Pramukh Swami Maharaj was telling them, "Look, you're supposed to be serving Yogi Bapa, so there's nothing over here. It's best that you go and sit with Yogi Bapa." And so he sent them off that way. But again, another very interesting incident in the way Yogi Bapa was encouraging and introducing Pramukh Swami Maharaj to all the yuaks over there. So when Pramukh Swami Maharaj tried to send the yuaks away, then the yuaks then told Pramukh Swami Maharaj, "Yogi Bapa is the one that actually sent us over here." So then Swami Shri shared some words of wisdom from the Videsh-dharmayatra, and he explained to them, saying that, "Look, we must surrender to only one Guru. We should remain only focused on Yogi Bapa. He must be our only aim. If Yogi Bapa is pleased, then everyone is pleased. If Yogi Bapa is displeased, then the entire world is displeased. So we must please him by performing his seva and samagam." And with these words, then Swami Shri sent them back, but didn't allow them to bathe him. Now this was also a very good expression of Swami Shri's Guru Bhakti and profound humility that we could see in Pramukh Swami Maharaj's life. Now, Yogiji Maharaj was scheduled to fly to Kenya in a few days. And so along with Yogi Bapa was going to Pramukh Swami Maharaj, Puja Mohan Swami Maharaj, 14 other sadhus and 31 devotees. So this whole group was scheduled to fly to Kenya in a few days. A farewell ceremony had been organized for them in the auditorium of Poddar College in Matunga. And almost 3,000 devotees from Gujarat, from Delhi, from Kolkata, and had all gathered to bid Yogiji Maharaj and Swami Shri a very hearty farewell. Now, as they would not have Yogi Bapa's darshan for the next 5 months, the devotees were very eager to make sure that they could take Yogi Bapa's darshan. And Yogi Bapa also showered a lot of divine bliss upon everyone. And eventually, on the 5th of February, Yogiji Maharaj then flew to Kenya from the Santa Cruz airport in Mumbai. Let's look at K36 now. So from Mumbai, they flew to Kenya, and the plane landed at the Embakasi airport in Nairobi at around 3:30 p.m., which is East Africa time, which was on the 5th of February 1970. Today, that airport is now known as Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Almost 3,000 Haribhaktas from East Africa and from neighboring countries were all there to welcome Pramukh Swami Maharaj, Yogiji Maharaj, and the Santos. Yogi Bapa, Pramukh Swami Maharaj, and the rest of the Santos were then driven to the newly built Mandir in Nairobi in a motorcade which was comprising of about 15 Mercedes cars and 400 other motor cars and 7 buses. So it was a huge delegation had actually come to welcome the Santos to Nairobi. Now the primary reason for Yogi Baba's visit to Nairobi was the inauguration of the new Mandir, which is located in Nagara. The Murti Pratishtha ceremony was scheduled on the day of Vasant Panchami on the 10th of February 1970. And as part of the festivities, Pramukh Swami Maharaj did a Parayan on the 7th skand of the Harilila Kalpataru. Along with this, there was also an Adhiveshan for the youth and the children of East Africa that had also been organized at this time. Swami Shri had been appointed as the presiding judge for this Adhiveshan. Interesting to have for these people to have a very memorable opportunity to have Pramukh Swami Maharaj as their judge. A Nagari Yatra had also been organized the day before the Pratishtha. Yogiji Maharaj, Swami Shri and Mahan Sai Maharaj along with Thakurji were then seated in Nagji Bhai's decorated Mercedes car. The Nagari Yatra's route, which included the Nagara Road, Park Road, Fort Hall Road. The kitchen dining area for all the attendees was located at the Brahm Samaj Community Hall, which was located on the route of the procession. Pramukh Swami Maharaj stepped out of the car mid-procession with Thakurji so that he could also go and take Thakurji to sanctify the kitchen and to bless everybody over there as well. And so that's where all the food was being prepared. So this was a part of the Nagari Yatra where Swami then stepped out and went to the Brahm. Now the historic Murti Pratishtha took place on the 10th of February and was witnessed by almost 6,000 people. Yogiji Maharaj, Yogi Bapa did the pujan of each of the Murtis except his own Murti, but eventually Pramukh Swami Maharaj completed the Vedic Pratishtha Vidhi on behalf of Yogi Bapa. Let's move on to K37. Now, as the Murti Pratishtha ceremony had also fallen on the day of Vasant Panchami, which is obviously the birth anniversary of Shastriji Maharaj, the evening Sabha had been organized at the Kachhi Gujarati Hindu Milan Mandir. Now, in his blessings to all the Hari Bhaktos, Yogiji Maharaj said something very interesting. Yogi Bapa said, "Aje Shastriji Maharajna આશીર્વાદ છે કે તને મને ધને બધા જ સુખી થાય." પ્રમુખ સ્વામીને શાસ્ત્રીજી મહારાજે ચાદર ઓઢાડી છે, માટે તે શાસ્ત્રીજી મહારાજની જગ્યાએ છે, માટે એમની આજ્ઞા પાડવી. સમો મળ્યો છે તો સાચવી લેજો, સમો વર્તે સાવધાન. Basically, today is Shastriji Maharaj's blessings, that everyone be bestowed with good health, intellect and wealth. Yogi Bapa mentions that Shastriji Maharaj has appointed Pramukh Swami Maharaj as the president, and so he is in Shastriji Maharaj's place. And that's why we must all follow Pramukh Swami Maharaj's Agna. Then he goes on to say that we must value this opportunity that we have received. Use time wisely. Yogiji Maharaj very openly introduced Pramukh Swami Maharaj's greatness on this occasion. Let's move on to K38. Now, after the Pratishtha, there would be a sabha almost every evening in the Mandir. And on one occasion, while Yogiji Maharaj was addressing the sabha, he recited a line from a bhajan. Ato vis vasani vat che, sau samajjo sakshatare. Which means that this is the talk of vis vasa. Everyone understood it as it is. And then he said, "What do you understand? Samjha?" So someone asked Baba, what does vis vasa mean? And Yogiji Maharaj admitted, very innocently laughing, Yogi Bapa says, "Mane khabar nathi padti. Even I don't understand its meaning." So Pramukh Swami Maharaj was very quick to jump in. He understood the situation and he jumped in to explain the meaning of the phrase. And Swami said that he's explaining the word Visvasa, and Swami said it is equivalent to a thumb measurement used in the Gaikwad state. 1 Visvasa is equal to 1 Vigha. In short, what it means is that whatever has been said is 100% true. Thus, Swamiji interpreted the line that Yogiji Maharaj had explained. This just showed how Swami was so very well versed in numbers and measurements. It was a reflection of all the work that Swami had done dealing with farmers, builders, the time that he spent in the stone quarries and all the farms as well. Swami would calculate conversations of measurements from Gotha to Vigha and from Vigha to acres very, very quickly. Swami also had a great amount of knowledge regarding the quality of soil in the land. He was very, very experienced. And for anybody who might have traveled with Pramukh Swami Maharaj, whenever Swami would visit any of the farms while he was doing his Vicharan, Swami was very good at, he had the ability to give also good advice regarding cotton or any other planting, any other farming techniques that the farmers would have at that time. So very, very even experienced farmers were sometimes very left awestruck whenever Pramukh Swami Maharaj gave guidance regarding the crops based on the type of land, etc. Let's move on to K39. Pramukh Swami Maharaj had a very amicable personality, and one of the reasons that people liked him so much was because he spent a lot of time with them. He spent a lot of time listening to them. He was such a great listener. During the 2 week stay in Nairobi, Pramukh Swami Maharaj, he went for darshan to many of the Hindu mandirs in the city. He visited the Swaminarayan Mandir that was managed by the Kachi Hari Bhaktas. And at this mandir, there was also a Murti of Dham, Dhami and Mukta of Bhagwan Swaminarayan, of Gunadayan Swami and Gopalan Swami. And this Murti had been sanctified by Shastriji Maharaj. So Pramukh Swami Maharaj also visited and did darshan of these Murtis. He also attended the discourses in the mornings and the evenings in the Mandir. So in the time that was available between the discourses, Pramukh Swami Maharaj did Padhramanis to many of the Hari Bhaktas' houses as well. Now during one of the Padhramanis, the devotees took Swami Shri to the famous Kenyan tea and coffee plantations. Now the tea and coffee plantations, Swami would spend some time with the Hari Bhaktas over there, but the Hari Bhaktas also were very intrigued and very excited to explain everything to Bapa, and so they would actually take him onto the farm and explain a lot of details about the tea and the coffee, the way this was being farmed as well and processed. And Pramukh Swami Maharaj listened very, very carefully and gave very, very positive responses. Now this was something very special about Pramukh Swami Maharaj. Even if he knew all the details that everybody was talking about, even if it was a repetition, but Swami was also very sensitive of the feelings of the Hari Bhaktas, and Swami took a genuine interest. So even if he knew the details beforehand, he would still spend a lot of time just listening to them with so much intent and so much interest. Let's move on to K40 now. So from Nairobi, Pramukh Swami Maharaj then flew to Kisumu with Yogiji Maharaj. There was a very warm welcome at the Kisumu airport. Yogiji Maharaj and Pramukh Swami Maharaj were welcomed by almost 1,500 devotees at that time. And then a procession took place in open cars from the airport all the way to the Lakshmi Narayan Mandir. Now Swamishi's schedule remained similar to that in Nairobi, with sabhas in the mornings and the evenings, and during the rest of the day, Pramukh Swami Maharaj would spend time doing a lot of Padhramanis to many of the Hari Bhaktas' houses. Now, while Pramukh Swami Maharaj was in Kisumu, he also went to the sugar mill in Miwani, and then from there he went to Maragoli, he went to Kericho. Eventually, Pramukh Swami Maharaj also went to Kakamega and some surrounding towns in that area. Eventually, from Kisumu, Pramukh Swami Maharaj then went to Tororo. Now let us look at K41. So while Swamiji was in Tororo, there was also a very grand welcome for the delegation, for Yogiji Maharaj, Pramukh Swami Maharaj and the Santos. They did darshan at the Tororo Mandir. Now Yogi Bapa's residence was located at CM Patel's house. CM Kaka, everybody very fondly knows him. But CM Kaka na ghare j Yogi Bapa no utaro hato. Pramukh Swami Maharaj and the other sadhus, their residence was located at Moti Bhai's house. Now the next day, Yogiji Maharaj, Swami Shri and the others, they visited the memorial shrine of Magan Bhai. They did pujan, arti, and then they held a sabha. Now while in Tororo, Swami Shri went ahead and did Padhramanis in the villages of Busia, Bukedia, and Kidongole. And then on the 28th of February, the group then went to Mabale. Now Yogiji Maharaj's residence had been arranged at Thakur Bhai's place. Now this section describes a very interesting incident where a special meal of basundi and puri had been prepared at Thakur Bhai's place, and how Yogiji Maharaj very lovingly served this to Swami Shri, Mahant Sai Maharaj, Dr. Swami and the other sadhus. Now after celebrating the 10th Patotsav of the Tororo Mandir, Swami Shri then arrived in Jinja. In Jinja, the sabhas were held 3 times a day. Previously we know that sabhas were held twice a day, in the morning and the evening, but in Jinja it was 3 times a day. So morning, in the evening, and then again at night. And Swami Shri attended every single sabha in the remaining time. And whenever he had a free moment, then Swami would actually also go about and complete all the other Padhramanis. Let's take a look at K42. Now this section describes a very nice incident about a youth named Girish. Many yuaks were traveling with Swami and the group of sadhus, and as a result the yuaks developed a very friendly connection with the sadhus. There was a yuak named Girish, and he found out that Puja Devcharan Swami was not fond of matundas. Matundas is a fruit, a passion fruit, and so he would often tease Dev Swami by offering him the fruit. Now one day Girish, he cut the matunda into 2 pieces and then offered a piece to Dev Swami again. Again, he was just teasing him. And while Girish was teasing Dev Swami, Pramukh Swami Maharaj happened to walk past. And in order to push the fruit away, Dev Swami, he pushed Girish's hand away, and the fruit then just flew into the air, and the sticky passion fruit seeds, they landed on Swami's feet, and its juice just splashed all over his clothes. Girish was dumbfounded. He was actually shaken and expected a very serious response. But Pramukh Swami Maharaj, he just smiled and then walked over to the bathroom, washed his feet, cleaned his clothes, but there was no other response. Something simple like this, but Girish was very deeply touched by this reaction. So this was one impression that was left in this Girish's mind. Now Girish also, he liked to fashion his long hair. And as a result, many sadhus would often urge him to shorten his hair. But neither Yogiji Maharaj nor Pramukh Swami Maharaj ever said anything to him about this. Now deep within him, he felt that, one day Pramukh Swami will definitely ask me to shorten my hair. But on the contrary, one day Pramukh Swami Maharaj said to him, grow your hair as long as you want, but ultimately one day you're going to have to shave it off anyway. And true to Swami's words, eventually Girish ended up shaving his hair off. And this was when he took Diksha. So he did take the initiation, he became a sadhu, and he was eventually named Akshar Purush Das Swami, who currently serves in the Ahmedabad Mandir. So many Hari Bhaktas are also aware of this. On the 7th of March, the local Hari Bhaktas then arranged for Swami Shri to visit the turbines that were generating electricity that was set up on the dam over the river Nile. So Pramukh Swami Maharaj also entertained that request as well. And then from Jinja, eventually, they all went to Kampala. Let's take a look at K43 now. So from Kampala, they went to Masindi, and then they went to Gulu. The devotees of Gulu had planned an excursion to the Murchison Falls for the visiting group of sadhus and the devotees. We can see an image of the Murchison Falls in the slide. Now, as Yogiji Maharaj was to stay behind in Gulu, he wasn't going to join the others for the excursion. So many members also thought of staying back to remain with Yogi Bapa, because Yogi Bapa wasn't going to go. So they all thought that we'll stay back and take Labh. But Yogiji Maharaj insisted that everyone, they should go ahead with the group. And they also said, and he also asked Pramukh Swami Maharaj to accompany the group. So as soon as it was decided that Pramukh Swami Maharaj was going to join the group, everybody got ready. Pramukh Swami, we mentioned earlier that Pramukh Swami Maharaj also had a very magnetic personality. So the minute everybody heard that Pramukh Swami Javan ashe, so they also joined the excursion as well. Now at the falls, there was a tree under which Yogiji Maharaj and Pramukh Swami Maharaj and Sant Swami had previously sat there when they visited in 1959. So while they were there, Pramukh Swami Maharaj gave everybody else a tour guide over there. And Swami pointed out the tree to everyone, just reminiscing on the moments that they had during the trip in 1959. So Pramukh Swami Maharaj, he had the ability to bring joy and fun to any event. And that's why everyone was always ready to go wherever he went. Pramukh Swami Maharaj had this effect that wherever he went, he would bring a lot of life to the tour as well. So let's look at K44 now. Eventually, the group then made their way to Kampala. Now in Kampala, Harman Bhai's son Jayanti Bhai from Sojitra, he was placed in Swami Shri's Seva. So he was actually traveling with Pramukh Swami Maharaj and was doing Pramukh Swami Maharaj's Seva. He would assist Pramukh Swami Maharaj in every need that was needed at that time, in every possible way. Now since Swami Shri was so engrossed in his work, there was very limited scope for any conversation between Jayanti Bhai and Swami Shri. Also, it wasn't in Swami Shri's nature to be so talkative, and so he spoke very, very little. Yet the mere presence of Swami Shri inspired Jayanti Bhai to later become a sadhu. He was known as Govind Prasad Swami, Sadhu Govind Prasad Das, and many Hari Bhaktas in the UK may know of him because many of us probably know his brothers as well. Ramakant Bhai Che, the late Ramakant Bhai who passed away, Pachi Bhupendra Bhai, Harnish Bhai who is in South Africa, and everybody also knows Pujya Tyag Swarup Swami. So Tyag Swarup Swami's brother was Pujya Govind Swami. So eventually he became a sadhu. So this whole incident is about his interaction with Pramukh Swami Maharaj. We will end our session here today. Shri Swaminarayan Bhagwanani Jai.